17-14. Cowboys out in front. Starr begins the count. Takes the snap. He's got the quarterback.
All right, welcome into Packers Total Access postgame show. My name is Clayton. You can check us out on Packernet.com. You can find me on Twitter at Packers_access. If you'd like to email the show, you can send a message to PackersTotalAccess@gmail.com. So let's just get right to it. We've got Ryan Schlip here on the line with us, man. Really appreciate you staying up late and hanging out for the postgame show. This is a brutal one, man. It's an easy one to say no to, I'm sure. But the Packers drop a tough one here to the Detroit Lions at Lambeau Field. 20-16, obviously knocking them out of the playoff race. Ryan, we kind of talked about it on the pregame show that we did. Nobody was expecting us to be in a position after the start that the Packers had. And here we were with an opportunity to actually make the playoffs. And of course, I think anything that could have gone wrong in the second half pretty much went wrong. Obviously, you lose the middle late 3-0. You lose the turnover differential. If somebody showed me those two numbers tonight, I'd be like, there's no way this other team have a shot. The fact that they were even winning that late in the game. And we got Jacob joining us now from Packernet Fantasy Podcast. What's your initial thoughts, Ryan, on the game, man? And I know you guys understand there's no cool down period here, so I don't know what's going to be said. We're going to let it fly.
My honest initial thought is I can't be mad at special teams. I can't be mad at defense. I know there were some collapses in there, especially toward the end, but I'm so sick and tired of the offense putting so much pressure on this defense constantly. I mean, you had the going forward on fourth down, just handed them 3 points, right? We had the fumble from Aaron Jones, gave him another 3 points. We had the missed field goal, gave him a short field. That was another 3 point. Like, the defense is constantly, look at last week with the Minnesota Vikings, giving them the ball on the 1 yard line. The defense is always being asked to do too much. At halftime, they had 6 points. It's the second lowest the Lions have had all season long. The defense was on point, but just like every year that we've been accustomed to in the playoffs, the offense can't do anything. We saw this in San Francisco. We held them to 13 points and lost the freaking game. The time before that, it's the same thing. The offensive line can't block. We can't run the ball. We can't throw the ball. We got drops. We got fumbles. We got bad throws. The offense was a joke. I mean, this was embarrassing. I mean, I'm actually embarrassed to go on social media because I'm running my mouth, and it's like I'm an idiot because this team sucks, and everybody was right. Vikings fans, Lions fans, Bears fans, they were right. This team is trash. Rodgers is washed. These wide receivers are no good. The offensive line can't block. It's just bad. So, we'll see what the future holds, but it's just upsetting that they came this far and they did such a good job and they built so much. And it just seems like in critical times, every single time they fall apart. And lately, it seems like it's always the offense. They just are completely incompetent. And it's so exhausting to get excited, to support this team again, just for them to show up and just act like, and this is the second time in a row, it's at home. At home, right. Prime time, ready to go, your field, your weather, everything's going in your favor. And it's Aaron Rodgers. They don't lose. It's January, and they don't even show up. They never got off the freaking bus. So it's just that's where I'm at. We can nitpick the defense and everything else, but I'm exhausted with this offense, just not giving a crap.
Yeah, gotcha. All right, in the chat we've got Michael hanging out. Appreciate you, bro, dropping in. He says outcoached and outplayed. I love the Pack, but that was sloppy. Jacob, your initial thoughts, man, because I think you would agree with old Michigan Rob. I said Michael. I apologize, Michigan Rob. What's your initial thoughts, man? Talk to me.
Man, I'm just, like you said, there's a lot of emotions going on, so I'm going to try to keep it, a little behind the scenes. Me and Clayton got into it a little bit because right after the game, when Rodgers apparently had an exchange with Williams, apparently it was an exchange about, can I get your jersey? Rodgers said, no, I want to hang on to this one. I got a little bit, dude, if you're really the leader of the team, if you're really not looking for drama, if you're not really looking for attention, I'm going to keep this one, and that's it. But you don't have to say, like, this is very calculated with every single word, every single sentence he says. He knows that as soon as he says this sentence and as soon as the camera does it, boom, the fire's lit, and now the attention goes to, like Mike Hebring said, it's all Rodgers now all the time. It doesn't matter what the Packers are doing. It's all going to be on Rodgers. That being said, I still understand what you were saying, Clayton, is where you'd be like, dude, back the F off. Like, this is my night. Let me have this. I get that that's what he's saying. I just wish he handled it in more of a non-media attracting way. That being said, also, Matt LaFleur, why can't you understand that if it's fourth down, you have the option to kick it, man? You can kick it. And especially if you're on your own 30, 35, it's a thing you can do. It's a thing you can try. And then this seems like Matt LaFleur every year, or this year specifically, fourth down. I don't know if I should, go. Let's go for it. It doesn't work. So let's try the worst play call we can do in that situation. Let's instead of just doing an Aaron Rodgers dive up the freaking Josh Myers center, who's the biggest center in the league. Let's get 6 inches that way. How about let's get Alan Lazard on an end around. That's cool. And let's let a couple D tackles unblocked.
They ran 7 times longer horizontally than they needed to get the
Well, it also doesn't help when you don't block. I don't know. We saw Tunyon over there. Yeah. Tunyon's just not Aiden Hutchinson. Like, I'm going to not block him and then run over here and not block him and just kind of go, what? I don't know.
And I'm sorry, but today I would have loved to have seen, but our rookies today took an absolute poop in the bed. Dobbs dropping the best pass ever. Wyatt making stupid, dumb-headed plays. Yeah. Quay Walker, guys, I'm sorry. I love the guy, but what are you doing, Quay? We're not supposed to be drafting guys that do this kind of things, Quay.
In the first round.
Right.
In the first round, you've gotten, dude, get your – don't get me wrong. Watson, the guy should not be putting his hands on him.
Yeah. No, yeah, Watson was definitely –
Watson was amazing.
He shows that he has the complete game. That's one positive.
And then we just kind of stopped going to Watson.
That's been all
my point. Is I feel like Rodgers at the end of the game, he goes, "Oh man, I'm getting emotional. Better start forcing it to Cobb. Better start making sure I take care."
To be fair, he forced it to Watson, and that led to a pick.
That's true.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
It's just again the positive, like I was telling Ryan, Jacob. The positive for me is you can't blame one person. That's the one positive. It fell at the feet of everyone.
Or the biggest negative.
Exactly. The defense had a chance to win it at the end. The offense, the Packers shouldn't have been in the game because the offense was so bad. The special team penalty. What was that? I will say that.
What was that result penalty? I've never in my life. Who do you think you are, sir, that you can just walk down the line of scrimmage and just flick the ball away? Who taught you that?
And then apparently that wasn't even a penalty until eventually the guy got up and got in his face. He'd turn around and hit him in the face, and that was what the penalty was.
And then I found out, I don't know if this is true or not, but I heard that after Quay pushed the trainer, Devontae Wyatt came in and pushed the trainer too.
Yeah. Devontae definitely put him up.
He could have got ejected too.
Like, hey, push the guy in front of you, bro. Don't push the trainer. Please. Yeah. If you want to hit somebody, hit the ball carrier. I would love to see that.
Yeah, or get up and hit Quay for being an idiot.
So in the chat, we got True Bruce Steve. Man, these names always get me, dude. We took it on the chin today, but it's time to move on. Love is in the air. So let's just jump right into that. And I was going to hit the presser. I was going to hit some of the details of the game, but I'm not going to do that. Let's jump right into the conversation, Ryan. Do you think Aaron Rodgers retires? And if he doesn't retire, is there any scenario whatsoever that the Packers try to move on from him?
I'm still leaning no. I know there's like a whole bunch of stuff going on. There was the jersey comment that everybody's jumping on, which I don't think that's what that meant. I think that was his way of being polite. Right. So
that's
he's an insignificant nobody that has like 5 yards receiving on the season and asked for his game jersey. And
potentially was his last home game.
Wait, it wasn't Jamal. It was Jamison Williams.
I think it was Jamison
Williams. It wasn't Jamal.
I thought it was Jamal.
No. See, Jamison.
Okay, so that makes a little bit of a difference to me.
Right.
So I thought it was Jamal Williams.
In my mind, that was just a polite way of going, no, I'm going to hang on to it as in like go screw yourself, but trying to be nice about it.
Okay, that makes a big difference to me. I thought that was Jamal Williams. I could only hear it. I can see it.
Right now.
Yeah. They just said Williams is just asking for his jersey, and I'm like,
originally I thought it was Jamal too when you first said it, and then when I went, I was like, I gotta go watch this, and the dude just walks, literally, kind of cuts him and Jamal's greeting off, and just says, "Hey man, can I have your jersey?" And he said, "No, I think I'm hold on." So that was it. Yeah. But anyway, not that it matters. Anyway, Aaron Rodgers.
No, that actually does matter because if he's denying Jamison Williams, I completely understand that. If he's saying that to Jamal, being like, I don't know, man, this might be my last one. I'm like, okay, well, that takes a little more.
It takes some gall for Jamison to even ask, to be honest.
Right. Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
And Jamal made a comment after it. I don't know what Jamal said, but to me, it looked like Jamal made a sarcastic comment to Aaron, like, here, you want mine? And they both laughed. And that was, so I love Jamal. I love dude. That dude's
I do too.
Awesome guy.
I hate that he got his revenge. But
hey, it is what
it
is.
It was going to happen, man.
Kelso in the chat says, how many drops tonight? I saw 2 by Dobbs alone that Rodgers couldn't have walked out there and handled them any better. If you're talking about the slant, I feel like the slant was a little low, but it was a drop. It was definitely a drop. And obviously the other throw, this is what I'm talking about with Aaron. Aaron's made some miraculous throws this year, but he's also made some stupid decisions and inaccuracy throws.
Yeah.
But that throw to Dobbs, man, he
unbelievable.
he probably stubbed Dobbs' finger, and Dobbs didn't even realize it hit him in the hands. But
yeah, so anyway, there were two from Dobbs, one from Lazard, and one from A.J. Dillon that hit him right in the hands. And I think at least 3 of those 4 were first downs.
Yeah, absolutely.
You want to know what else is funny? Real quick, sorry to interrupt you. I think Quay, he either tied or did beat AJ Hawk's tackle record. He got 7. So before he got kicked out.
With one additional game, right? I mean, so yeah. So as far as Aaron Rodgers, Jacob, I'm not asking what do you want to happen. I'm asking what do you think will happen with Aaron Rodgers? Do you think he's just going to walk away? I mean, that's walking out on as low a note as you possibly can, I believe, don't you think?
I do not believe that he'll let him his career. I do like Rodgers. I do. I just don't think that I do not believe his ego will ever let him walk away with this being the end of it. Not even close.
Mm-hmm.
No.
And then Michigan Rob says, we're with you, Ryan. And then we go to Kelso again. LaFleur and boneheaded calls was more to blame than Rodgers, who was under duress all game long. Yeah, and here I'm going to talk about the interception for a second. It was a chuck and duck. That's exactly what it was. I got to go back and watch the tape, but in real time, it seemed like there was 3 routes. All 3 were covered up. The safety was playing center high. He shades over to Watson. Aaron's getting drilled. I mean, they literally ran. It wasn't a 0 blitz, but it was a heavy blitz. That's what I mean about this scheme. I was spoiled freaking rotten watching McCarthy's system, where there was 4 and 5 options every single passing play. On this, it's like you come to the line, you read the coverage pre-snap, and you're picking one side of the field to attack with. And in some cases, there's only 2 options. Like, I just don't like that in the passing game. But again, they did a good job. You got to give them credit. They did a good job shutting the run down for the most part, especially situationally, they being Detroit. And on that throw to Watson, it was, hey, you either throw it away, take a sack, or just chuck it up to Watson and give him a shot. Unfortunately, the throw wasn't good enough to have a shot. But as far as LaFleur, let's get to that, Ryan. The 4th down call, when they made that call, what did we talk about in the freaking pregame? Like, we were talking about don't go for it on 4th down inside the 10. They went for it on 4th down on their own. What were they, like at their 30,
34? I don't know.
Well, the other thing I couldn't stop thinking about the other thing we kept talking about that I couldn't stop thinking about was we said don't get cute. Yes. How they kept doing all this weird stuff, like just play football. What is all this? Like you said, with the end around to Lazard, and like we're playing like this is. I don't get it. You're better than the Lions. You're at home on Sunday night in January. Just line up and play football. You're doing a good job, and it's like we got to be creative. We got to. Why? Why are you trying to pull tricks out of the bag? Now, I don't understand that. Yeah,
I agree. And we've got here in the chat, James Stage says Rodgers has to go. I did a poll a little while back on Twitter, and it came to roughly 28% people wanted to move on from Rodgers. So it was heavily in Rodgers' favor. This is early in the season. I'd like to see what that number is now, to be honest with you. But Michigan Rob says, I'm glad you guys are here. Lots of emotions. Hey, man, you got to lean on each other in these times. Remember what Bubba said? Bubba Gump? He said, you lean against me, I'll lean right back. That way we don't have to sleep with our head in the mud. That's what I'm talking about right
God, you made me watch Forrest Gump again.
Yeah, go get refreshed on that, Jacob, you city folk, you. Drew Fay said, Phil, we could have won with the momentum before the Aaron Jones fumble. Let's talk about the Aaron Jones fumble. That dude is flashing.
Oh,
Man, he is a lightning rod. That guy,
Yeah.
he can be the difference maker in a game. He can be the X factor. All the cliches you want to use. But when he fumbles in big games, Ryan,
Yeah.
like
He
I
was
think
he's
as soon
number
as that
2
fumble
in the
happened,
league this
it
year.
felt like the 49ers
fumbling.
playoff game fumble.
Well, and the worst part is I can't get mad or I can't stay mad at him. Like I get mad at him, and it's like, man, it's Aaron Jones. I can't stay mad at the guy. But yeah, I mean, it's just that's another one of those things, and it does seem like it's always in big games. And this was just as soon as you saw that, for me, anyways, it was just like this isn't going to be this is it. Like we're not going to win this game with all the drops and everything else going on. And now you got your star running back you're finally getting some momentum. You finally get a big gain, and he puts it on the ground, and the other team recovers, and it's like, you know what, this isn't going to go in our favor.
Right. And to put things into perspective, we didn't come into this game going, yeah, the Packers are going to go on a run here. And we were all like, man, let's get through tonight, and maybe they can rekindle the flame of 2010, right? In the chat here, we got Kelso says, you'll look for any reason to be mad right now. I know that's me, to be honest with you. I find myself looking at reasons to be ticked off rather than reasonable.
I'm picking fights
It says
about
this jersey
landlord,
thing is
anybody.
a perfect this jersey is a perfect example. He wants to keep his jersey so freaking white. Here's my take. I'm going to get back to it. My take is, first of all, I was a very good winner, but I was a sore loser when I played sports. If a guy came up to me after I got eliminated from a tournament or whatever it was in baseball and said, hey, man, can I get your jersey? I'd have probably hit him in the mouth. That's me. So I'm probably not the guy to ask about that. But, yeah, I mean, one thing about Rodgers, he's one of those guys that you either love him or you hate him. There's nobody that's just kind of like, for me, it's like, you were talking about how in the chat, Jacob, and now that we realize it wasn't Jamal Williams, it's a little bit different perspective. I get that and respect that. As I look at the big screen here, the 75-inch, here's Rodgers at the presser. I don't even want to know what he's saying right now.
I'm looking at the comments on Twitter here.
Yeah, so here's the thing that got me. They're going down the tunnel, him and Cobb, and they got their arm around each other. They're probably both – there's a good chance both of them are retiring, right? And the cameraman gets right down in front of him, puts the camera right up in their face as they're having a conversation. I'm sorry. You're never going to hear me go, oh, Rodgers is a prick for pushing him out of the way. Dude, the media is so freaking entitled in moments like this that they think
can I
they
play
can just
devil's
do
advocate?
whatever they want. If the media, that same media member walked up to Aaron Rodgers and Randall Cobb or insert David Bakhtiari, anybody, and they're having a conversation on the street and they put a camera right in their face, they would not do it because they know they'd lose their freaking teeth. Like, the media is so entitled when it comes to stuff like this. There's a reason there's a cool down period before the presser.
I wish they would have done it to Quay Walker as he was walking off.
Yeah, the same thing with Quay Walker.
Quay Walker would have knocked his teeth out.
I was going to ask if I could play devil's advocate on that, Clayton, because specifically for those two instances. One, they did the Quay Walker shot, which to me was like, that's low blow. Don't do that. Don't show a young man who's just absolutely losing his understanding that he just lost his cool and then he's coming to grips with it and he's going through the emotions. And then you show two guys. And this is where the only reason I'm mad at Rodgers for this is because he knows he's a seasoned vet. He is and specifically he knows that the media is out to get him. So I thought, one, I'm not mad at necessarily when I said, I don't like the fact that they're making a show out of this. I didn't mean Rodgers and Cobb. I meant that the fact that the NFL and that the Green Bay Association knew they had to know that was going to happen. There's no way that camera guy, they don't get into that tunnel without accreditation. There's no way that they don't know that that's going to happen. So that it's like Green Bay organization, don't let them do that. Number two, Rodgers, don't give them the ammunition by pushing the camera guy and doing the whole, like, that to me just looks so staged. And also, like, okay, if Rodgers decides he's going to stay, you think that he can't just say, look, if I'm going to stay, Cobb's going to stay? I'm sorry. We've already seen it for 2 years in a row. Cobb decides to take a pay cut. Okay, he's going to stay. So right now we have to acknowledge that the NFL is an entertainment company. They are licensed as an entertainment show. Like, they're taxed as an entertainment network. So they're going to give us as much entertainment as we'll ingest, is my opinion. And right there, it looked too much more like, I don't know, like daytime TV. It didn't look like real emotion. It looked like scripted WWF stuff, and I just really didn't like it. Maybe I'm reading too much into it, but to me, it looked like WWF, and I just got turned off by it, to be honest.
I got you. I understand.
Well, the only thing I would say is I think the Aaron Rodgers is calculating every step thing is a little overstated. I think we play that card a little bit too much. I think sometimes he's just a human being doing stuff, you know?
He reacts.
He's a smart guy, but he's allowed to be emotional and just do things off the cuff and say things off the cuff sometimes. And I think we kind of overanalyze too, where it's like, if he does anything that's off the cuff, we say, no, that wasn't off the cuff. He planned that, and then we come up with a big scheme for why he planned it. I think he lost, and he's bummed just like we are, and he's pissed, and he's sad, and he's in his feelings about maybe being done and everything else. And the camera guy shoved his camera in his face when he's with his best friend. And
like Clayton said, that would have been
right, like
Conor McGregor style.
Come on, dude, just move. You know, like get out of my way.
Yeah.
You know, so I mean, I get it, but I also think sometimes it's like we overplay the he's super calculating card. I think he's a relatively smart guy. I don't think he's like that level of super genius where every single thing he does is like 7 steps of like how I can manipulate something.
I think
he's just a dude.
Chess. Yeah.
No, he's just a guy out there trying to walk off the field.
He's just really good at checkers.
Yeah, right. He's a mediocre checker player.
That's the quarter of the night right there. Mike in the chat, Mike Superfan, appreciate you being in there, bro. He said 12 is officially the most overrated quarterback in NFL history. Sorry, fella. He says fella. He doesn't say plural. He's probably talking to me. But someone has to say it. My question to Mike would be, what do you mean by overrated? You've got a guy who won 4 MVPs.
I'm MVP.
He won a Super Bowl. If you mean overrated as if he doesn't deserve the praise he's gotten, I mean, I disagree.
I think he may be underrated as the most like pinpoint. What would you call it? Analytical quarterback, or like what's the word I'm looking for?
If you were to say, is he overrated this year? 100% agree with you. 100%, because there were still people holding out hope that the bad man Rodgers, right? That bad man was going to show up here and then they were going to go on this run. And you didn't see the bad man once all year long. My argument all year long against what I refer to as the Rodgers haters is he's still a top 10 quarterback. Now, what does that mean? Will that get you to the promised land? Probably not without a Devontae Adams, you know? But yeah, I don't. If you're saying he's over, his career has been overrated, I disagree. If you're saying he's overrated this year, I would have to agree for sure. This right here sums it up, though. We got the Sammy YP in the house. He just says all caps, pain. I agree with that. And Kelso again, what was Rasul doing? Getting burnt and taking 15-yard penalties was it. Here's the thing about the Rasul penalty. We kind of touched on it. And Coach Hahn, I didn't think of this. I don't want you to think I'm this football savvy or smart. Coach Hahn said in the chat he thinks he was trying to prevent them from kicking a practice kick, which makes total sense. That's actually that's a high football IQ move. Get over there, knock the ball down. They already called the timeout. Don't let them kick the field goal. Again, we got to specify he didn't get flagged for moving the ball off the center's hands. He got flagged because he retaliated after somebody shoved him in the back. And, they just got kind of outsmarted when it comes to the penalties tonight for sure. Kelso,
I just want to read this real quick. Andy Herman just posted this. Packers in Lions territory this year. 1st and goal at the 5, 0 points. 1st and goal at the 1, 0 points. 1st and 10 at the 45, 0 points. 1st and 10 at the 43, 0 points. 1st and 10 at the 23, 0 points. 1st and 10 at the 27, 6. 1st and 10 at the 14, 3 points. 1st and 10 at the 17, 0 points. 1st and 10 at the 5, 3. 1st and 10 at the 25, 3. 1st and 10 at the 29, 0. At the 38, 0. At the 37, 0. And at the 14, 7. So we left like 50 some odd points on the board for the. And this is what I'm talking about with the defense. Like we can nitpick this, that, or the other. 20 points is more than enough. I mean, that's what I predicted that they would have. The Packers offense is the one that failed. And a lot of those points shouldn't have even been there because the offense handed it to them. These opportunities being left out there, and I'm shocked they even got that close to the goal line that many times because I don't remember them even getting first downs in this game. But anyways, apparently we did. I know this is the last game too, but still, it's just I don't know. It's just upsetting. They should have.
Yeah.
Whatever. I've said it already.
Thanks for taking the time to share that because I
you're
knew
welcome.
the numbers had to be astronomical. I'm not being sarcastic. Like that, you cannot win ball games leaving points on the field like that. You just can't. Some of it, and that's what I'm going back to. It's not one person. Some of it was making the decision to go for it on fourth down rather than kick the field goal. Some of it was Aaron Rodgers making a mistake. Some of it, it was just all across the freaking board. There's plenty of blame to go around for sure. Heber, I guess is how you say that in the chat. Heber. Sorry if I'm screwing your name up, bro.
I'll do the last name.
Yeah.
Heber,
Good luck with that. You kidding me?
Borshwisky.
I'm a Kentucky high school pushout, which is the equivalent to about a third grade education for where you guys are from. But he said, really sad to see the season end this way. Defense did okay against a great offense. Isn't it crazy to think that some people consider Detroit as a great offense, and maybe I do. I'm not saying I disagree with you, but it's just wild how things change. I just think Rodgers leaves so much on the field, no heart. I'll say this: Rodgers does not have that. It's been overused all year long talking football, especially NFL, that dog mentality. He just doesn't seem like that guy who's going to go out there and cut your heart out anymore.
Right.
He's a cat.
I think
He's
everybody
a cat
will
guy.
agree. Yeah, the Hat Man.
He'll love you when he
Yeah,
wants to, and then just kind of go away for a while and spend a summer off.
I think that's where I'm
country.
at with Rodgers, and it's kind of like you're saying he's a top 10 quarterback. I don't disagree. I think he's in that like Stafford Goff kind of territory where it's like he's fine, but that's not Aaron Rodgers. That's not the even when the announcers will say things like "You better watch out, it's Rodgers." I'm thinking, no, you don't.
No, it ain't.
This isn't that. That's not that guy anymore. Even when people talk about when nobody wants to see Rodgers in the playoffs, you might be scared of the Packers. It's not Rodgers though. I hoped that he would get that back and something would kind of spark, but that's the difference. And maybe it's unfair to rag on him for being a good quarterback instead of a great quarterback, but it just I don't know. It's just that was the aggravation I had is he was just a normal, average to depending on the game, sometimes decent, sometimes pretty subpar, like in this game. But there was never that like this guy's dangerous thing.
Exactly.
Ryan, right now, would you take Kirk Cousins or Aaron Rodgers in this game? Boom, go.
Oh, jeez. You're gonna get me in trouble.
Yeah, I know. You're gonna lose your podcast right now.
Well, can I?
I got one for you, Jacob. Where were you on January 6th? No, just joking. Calm down out there, people. Calm down.
That's a joke.
How about this? I'll get myself in trouble, but in a different way. I'll take Jordan Love in this game. How about that?
Oh, yeah, that's almost just as bad.
That's bad for a different reason.
People think I'm being sarcastic or it's like a backhanded compliment or comment. I'm being dead serious. If Jordan Love is the person, I'm not saying this is necessarily you, Ryan. It may be, it may not. If Jordan Love is the person that some fans think he is, thank God. That means we're stepping right into a starting caliber quarterback, probably a top 10 quarterback, because some people were saying he would have outperformed Rodgers this year, right? And if that's the case, then great. You're going to get him at a cheaper cost, right, than Rodgers, as Rodgers decides to retire whenever that may be. And we've got – nobody wants to realize, but we've got a 2-year window. And I know that's not the sexy comment because, the talking point is, will Rodgers walk away or will they trade Jordan Love? But we've really got a 2-year window here. If Rodgers wants to come back next year, they can still re-sign Jordan Love and the cap would work out, right? I'm not going to get into all the details of that. We can get into that. We'll have plenty of time to get into that during the offseason, unfortunately. But like Mike points out in the chat here, he says, I want a refund on the $50 million, talking about Aaron.
You want to set off Clayton, talk about how Rodgers is costing us $50 million this year.
That number, it's amazing. It's amazing to me how the media can say something. And
The salary cap, it's every year. It's concrete, guys. You better live by it.
They mentioned that on the Lions podcast today. I just let it go by me. I'm not going to get into it.
And that's what I want to do with Mike, but I respect Mike and appreciate what he does for the podcast, and I'm going to read his comment. It's going to happen. Every comment will get read unless somebody's just taking a dig at one of the people here speaking or just being personal. So just know that in advance. Kelso says, what about the final play, too? 4th and 1, game on the line, and let's cover the goal line. WTF. That the way that they crash down too, when you look at it, listen, it's easy for me to do this on the third replay from the warmth of my couch, but the view from behind the defense, they had the hat count on that side, and I believe it was Kenny. I may be wrong. It might have been TJ crashed inside and just left that gap wide open. But again, that play wasn't the reason they lost. Although Kelso, I share the sentiment there, man. It's hard to watch that happen for sure. Brett in the chat says, do you think Joe Barry saved his job with these last couple games because the defense, I believe, played pretty damn well? I don't think he saved his job with the last couple of games. I think he saved it with the last third of the season, to be honest with you. I think Joe Barry is going to be back. Ryan, what do you think, man?
I think so. I mean, it's just a handful of games, but I mean, this is the defense we always wanted. We got it. Why switch it up? You know, they're doing it. What's the issue? And again, even if you're upset with this game, which I don't exactly know why you would be, as you said, the Lions offense, this is a team, and that's the other reason I'm upset with our offense. This is a team who's entirely built on having an elite offense and a garbage defense. And look what happened, right? We hold them to 6 points at half, and we can't score any points. But again, like the defense just overexceeded expectations all along the way, and including this game. And yeah, it got ugly toward the end because eventually that dam is going to break. And that's what I had said the whole time. If they don't start scoring, eventually that dam's going to break, and it did. But yeah, the entire last quarter, third, whatever of the season, the defense was just playing like we wanted them to play. I don't see a reason at that point to make a switch. You got what you wanted. Yeah,
what do you think, Jacob?
Man, I am torn. I'm going to be honest. I am torn. But after I listen to honest, like people like you and Coach and people like Sam, they actually know what they're talking about. And not listening to my Uncle Ted, just drunk, talking on my cell phone, you know, just
Uncle
being like,
Ted,
they should fire Barry. And I'm like, you're right, Uncle Ted. I should fire Barry. Yeah. Hey, well, I'm just saying, I don't have an Uncle Ted. No, you're good.
All right, I got you. Well, I want
to Uncle Tim. It's Uncle Tim. I'm calling you out, Tim. But no, for real. I honestly don't know, because I was on the Fire Barry train. I was very hard on that. But then if you look at one of Ryan's podcasts, when he talked about when they changed the whole basic scheme of the defense and went from night to day, where they went from a blitz heavy defense, or at least a blitz possible defense, to a 7 front or a 7 defensive back kind of thing, where it was, what was it? The analytics basically said that this is the way you play defense nowadays. And this is how you are successful against modern day offenses. And that's cool. And that's great. And so if he has made, and our big critique of Joe Barry, which was in any given Sunday, was the guy doesn't make adjustments. Well, apparently he has been making adjustments, and especially when we saw against that Vikings game when he let Jair do, like I said, that kind of half shadow, half play within the defensive scheme. And just real quick, I don't mean to change the subject, but it is still on the same subject. Darnell Savage was our leading tackler, 11 tackles, 7 solo. Tackle for a loss, which I thought was great. 2 pass deflections, and even though I think we've already picked up his 5th-year option, right? But doesn't that make you feel at least confident the guy's not sitting down eating Cheetos, just popping, you know? He's like, I think he thinks that people are like, oh, man, I probably should earn this money. I mean, he's playing that slot, and he feels like that's the spot for him, in my opinion, right?
Yeah, no, I will say this. Darnell Savage probably had his best game of the year. He showed up. Now, there was one play specifically that got called back on a penalty where a guy was got behind the defense, and that was on Savage. That'll probably hurt his PFF score pretty bad. But other than that, I thought he played pretty sound tonight. And I agree that if there is one positive coming out of here, Jacob, the fact that we've got him for a 5th-year option, maybe he can turn it around. I will say this. I have been Savage's biggest critic all year long. Nobody will argue with that. But the way that he handled being benched and then coming back and playing his role, you've got to give that guy respect. You've got to.
That's true.
And here's Coach Hahn in the chat. Appreciate you, Coach, dropping in. He says, everything you just described is culture. That's the part that scares me, guys. You know, when I've referenced this several times this year, and Matt LaFleur, when he came in, the thing that stood out to me the most is I looked at him like, this is going to be a soft coach. You can just tell, right? But his first training camp, one of the reporters, it might have been Andy Herman, I can't remember who it was, they said that he stopped practice because Devontae fumbled. He blew the whistle, and he said, if you do not protect the football, you will not play for me. And I thought, okay, maybe this guy's got a little backbone. He said that to Devontae freaking Adams. That's awesome, right? Mm-hmm. But there's a culture problem in Green Bay. I really believe that. There's too much reins give to the players. And you know me,
Yeah.
I'm Coach K 101. I've got a chance to study under Coach K, although I hate basketball, which is hilarious. He is all about the great teams are player-led teams. But letting this was too much of a player-led team this year, from Rodgers to Jair to anyone else. I just feel like it kind of got away from the coaches. But how do you feel about that, Ron?
So we're kind of getting back into the conversations we were having back on that 5-game losing streak when you're talking about the culture issues and everything else. And it was tough because it's obviously sitting there, but what are you going to do? I mean, you start throwing things around like maybe making coaching changes and everybody loses their mind. Like, how dare you even talk about it? And I'm not even saying necessarily that's the case, but let's just say it is. What do you do? Right? Let's say there is a culture problem. Do you fire the entire roster? You get rid of all 53 guys and bring in all new guys, or do we try to find a new coach that can bring in a new culture? And you say, well, it's player led. It's a locker room. What do you want me to? What do you do about that? You just throw your hands up and go, well, shoot, that sucks. I guess hopefully they figure out how to. And again, like, do we bring in all new guys, or do you kind of nudge them as a coach? Like, hey, would you mind like giving a crap or like doing something, like giving a pep talk or anything? Like, no, okay, well, I guess there's nothing we can do about it.
Yeah, I'll be upstairs.
Yeah, that's why I don't like that whole mentality. Well, that's not the coach's problem. That's no BS, dude. You got to push it. You got to drive it. You in some way. Look at the Lions. Yes, their locker room is the driving force. But you're telling me the coach isn't pushing that and fostering that and driving that in some way? BS. The coaches obviously have something to do with it. So I just don't like that. You can't blame the coach. Same with the defense. Well, that's the player's problem. It's not the coach's problem. No, it's the coach's problem because it's the player's problem. So, right. Yeah, and I don't know what to do about it. I'm not saying fire LaFleur, but I agree, and I hate to even say that because it's going to sound reactionary or whatever, but you can see it. I mean, even during the game when LaFleur looks like he's asking Rodgers what to do and like, what should we do? Should we do this or should we do that? It's like, dude, get it. You're the head coach. Screw, I'm sorry, but I don't give a crap who your quarterback is. This is what we're doing. The play where should we punt? Should we punt?
He asked that. Should we punt?
Who are you talking to? It's your decision. I don't care what the quarterback wants to do. And I'm not blaming Rodgers. I'm saying as the head coach, that's such a like, you can't do that.
And when people jump on Rodgers for that, I immediately snap back and go, that is LaFleur.
Yeah, you got to take that away. Right. Yeah. And so and again, I like him as a play caller a lot, and I like LaFleur, but I really think, like you said, he gives way too much leash to the players. And listen, everybody's different. Some guys are self-motivated, like I'll say Rashawn Gary. That dude, he has just got his head down. He's going to drive. He's going to work. But some guys, man, you give them leash, they'll take it. And, if you're not going to be on them, hey, after practice, I'm going to go do whatever I want to do, and I'm not going to put in the work. And because what are you going to do about it? Not everybody's wired the same way, and I'm not saying the whole team, but that's going to happen, and that culture starts to spiral, and that's what I mean by the coach leads the culture. If you're going to be soft and your teams start to not care, and then that starts to brew within the locker room. So I don't know the answer, but I do think that that's a problem, and it does concern me. And again, you see these big games, and the team consistently just doesn't show up, and you say, how does this keep happening? Where am I supposed to look? What am I supposed to do? I can't say fire LaFleur, so what am I supposed to do? I guess just throw my hands up and say this is what it is every year, because we're not allowed to change anything because that would be reactionary.
Absolutely. Jacob, do you have something there, man? You started to say something.
No, I really I think that's just a sociological kind of thing that transpires through like human beings, where even if it's in a business world, if it's in a football world, in my own personal work situations, I've seen it where the quote unquote leader isn't the leader to the eyes of the quote unquote employees or the players. And that whole dynamic of leadership change, it doesn't go well down the ranks, right? So this person, like you said, if you were think about if you're at your job and your boss goes, should I fire this guy? Do you think I should fire him? You do? Okay, then fire him. And then you're like, they see the guy go fire him. They don't see you fire him. So the whole company thinks, well, that guy's really in charge. All I am is a mouthpiece to that guy. So
that's a great parallel, man. Yeah.
It just doesn't seem like he's commanding us. They always say walk small and carry a big stick, or maybe vice versa. I don't remember what it is, Teddy Roosevelt, whatever it was, or talk small and carry a big stick. And I think LaFleur kind of talks pretty and carries big eyebrows. It's like, come on, man, just show us what you got here. Like,
Oh my god, I love
put
it.
some pants on.
Chet
Put some
in the
big
chat
boy pants
says,
on.
talk pretty and carry big eyebrows. That's not what Chet said. That's what Jacob said. Chet said Aaron is done, but they won't move on from him. He doesn't produce in big games. That's what I agree with. I don't agree that he's done, but they won't move on from him. That would be my answer if you guys were to ask me the same question that I asked you. The team is not going to say, Aaron, you're not welcome back. Now, I know he said recently that as early as this week, it's got to be mutual. Maybe he was opening that door for the team to go, hey, look, we're cool if you want to retire. You know,
So there's a lot of that talk. I've been monitoring the comments, and Rodgers is real heavy on that. He said, first of all, I'm not going to hold the team hostage. He's going to talk with the team and see what they want to do. He made a comment, something about maybe the team wants to go younger. So he knows that he holds all the cards, but according to him, and he flat out said, I couldn't care less about the $59 million. I'm more than comfortable enough to walk away from that money. It doesn't mean anything to me if that's my decision. So it's going to kind of come down to what the team wants to do. I agree with you. I don't think they're going to say, which again kind of comes down to backbone. I don't think they're going to have the backbone to say, we don't want you back. And I think that's kind of a problem. But it does sound like the bottom line is there's going to be tons of Rodgers speculation based on what Rodgers said at the podium here, because it's all just fodder.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Like what he said there, and I haven't seen the comments. I'm trusting that that was accurate wherever you read it.
Yeah.
To me, that's a good thing. He's saying, "Look, I don't,
right."
What
I
he's
agree.
basically saying is, I'm going to forfeit a large chunk of the money if they don't want me back. He's not saying I'll go play for someone else. And I think that's about as good a scenario as you can ask for, seeing that they begged him to come back. Now, the whole, the critics will say, well, why did the contract have to be so big? Well, he wanted to reset the market for the union. We know he's always been a big union guy, although he spoke out. I feel like that's been a little bit fractured since the COVID situation, but we're not going to get into that because we know people will get their feelings hurt.
And the stream just died.
There it is. All of a sudden, Clayton disappears over here. I have a medical issue right on, live on the air. But how do you say this name right here, guys? I don't want to butcher it. Ryan, you're educated. You're edumacated. How would you say?
Come on, man. You're asking
Murillo.
me, and I'm positive he told me already.
That's Murillo.
So that's what makes it worse. I know it's
Murillo
Murillo.
Tavares.
Dang, he rolled the R. Did you hear that?
I asked him, and he told me. And now if I say it wrong, I'm a total douche. So don't ask me.
Well, now that you don't know, he knows you're a total douche, so it's all good anyway. Right?
Well, maybe I do know, and I just don't want to say it. All right.
Oh, I see. Chess.
I just don't feel like it right now.
Anyway, Murillo.
I do have a girlfriend. She goes to a different school.
Are we bringing Hackett back, Ryan? As soon as Hackett was fired, and Jacob too. As soon as Hackett was fired, I said, bring him back. Bring him back. Obviously, what changed from last year? Two pieces. Davante Adams and Nathaniel Hackett. There are some people that are great coordinators. Josh McDaniels, a great offensive coordinator. Horrible head coach, right? Maybe that's Nathaniel Hackett. If you could make the decision tomorrow, would you bring Nathaniel Hackett back as OC and demote Stenavich back to offensive line? How would you handle it?
It's kind of a cop-out answer because the real answer is I don't really know, because I don't know the inner workings, right? If I'm on the inside and I'm looking at it and saying that guy didn't really provide too much to us, and I love our offensive coordinator and he's doing a great job, like with the run game and everything, this is more of a Davante left and we can't get into it, then no. But maybe we overinflate our opinion of Matt LaFleur, and Hackett really carried a ton of weight, and once he left, we're kind of trying to pick up the pieces. And now that we realize that, yeah, dude, whatever it takes, get that guy back here, offer him whatever it takes. I don't think they're going to, but again, if that is the situation, then Matt LaFleur better hurry up and do that, or he's going to get himself fired. Because we all think it's you, so bring Hackett back so we can go back to thinking it's you.
Jacob, what do you think, man? Would you bring Hackett back?
I mean, I don't know. It's like you said, you replaced for Stenavich or whatever, and I guess it depends on, is Rodgers in the building, because Rodgers loved Clements and that kind of stuff. So it depends on who that quarterback wants in his building and who's that upper echelon around him. And did you just highlight that Quay Walker's the only guy to get tossed twice in a year?
That's what Kelso said here in the chat. So we'll just move on to that. Yeah. That's tough, man.
Don't
I'm
tell me
telling you,
that right now.
I have never. I'm an emotional basket case. I'm a roller coaster. I'm sure you guys have caught on to that this year working with me. But the second that he was ejected and that happened, I was furious at Quay. And then when I seen him walking down the tunnel, that upset, I immediately felt horrible for the guy.
I
was
didn't
just
like that they showed that angle, to be honest.
It's horrible. Like
They
that's what I'm
showed the
saying
dude
about the
like
media,
losing his mind, like in the worst situation of his life, with his emotions completely beside himself, knowing that he might have just caused his whole team, his $1 million contract down the drain, and you watch the guy cry on TV. Like, why would you do that to him?
Right.
Why would you do that?
And that's what I'm
I don't
saying. If you were on the street, right, and you see somebody crying their eyes out, would you go over there and go, "Hey, everybody, look at this guy right here. He's upset." You wouldn't.
Unfortunately, Clayton, nowadays most people would. They take out their freaking phones and be like,
Yep.
World Star.
You won't do it down here in Tennessee. You'll get
Yeah, that's
lost in
true.
these mountains somewhere. I
Yeah,
promise
that's
you
true.
that. All right, True Bruce Steve says the extra game messing up all these NFL records are upsetting, man. I'm kind of a traditionalist too, Steve.
It's true.
So I'm the same way, man. Brett in the chat says, "What's your take on Rodgers just throwing that ball up there, but you have 2 down, so just get 10 yards?" Again, I kind of commented on it, Brett. I don't know if you were in here yet. There was no one open. You either throw it away, take a sack, or chuck it up to Watson. I agree. Hindsight's 2020. I don't have a 320-pound guy breathing down my neck. I would say throw it away and try to draw up a spread play and pick up the 10 yards. But again, in the moment, that kind of goes with what we were talking about, Ryan, all year long. Yes, Rodgers' accuracy's been off because of the thumb, but there's something mental there that's just kind of a little bit checked. Not when I say checked out, it makes it sound like he doesn't care. I don't think it is. He doesn't care. It just looks like Father Time's kind of caught up to him, and he can't make those sharp decisions on the fly. He's done it occasionally, but not as consistent as he has in the past. But all right, this right here, this is Don in the chat. Hey, Don, thanks for hanging out. Hey, guys, any ideas what's going on with Quay? Is he going to get cut? I think there's absolutely no chance he gets cut, Don. Although, man, when you see Ryan, you couldn't have picked a bigger play for that to happen, right? I mean, that I don't want to say it cost the defense on that drive, but man, it was darn near close, right?
Yeah, and I mean that's the second time he got ejected, but it's not. He's also had other penalties. I think he hit a guy out of bounds one time and got flagged. Just last week, he body slammed a guy and got penalized for that.
Right.
So I mean,
and I was the one on the air, the hypocrite, saying it was worth it, right? But go ahead.
Well, I said that too in hindsight, and I said the last time when he hit a guy out of bounds, I said I don't care, I'll take it. Because I needed to see some fire and some passion. Like, okay, hit a guy out of bounds, no big deal. And then the next week he got ejected, and now he's got 2 more penalties and an ejection. So it's like, all right, maybe we shouldn't encourage this guy to be quite so violent.
Killer.
But, yeah, exactly. Maybe tone it down a little bit.
Kelso in the chat. Go ahead, Jake.
Wait, I remember Ryan on multiple occasions, and you can check this in his podcast. He goes, I don't want a guy to be violent. I just want to be like borderline, maybe like a little insane, a little aggressive, not like really, really mean or nothing, but just a little bit crazy. Here we got him, and now he's like, well.
Well, I know he's just a little bit too far. He just got to dial it back a half
Captain
a step.
Insano shows no mercy.
Yeah, like hitting a guy out of bounds and body slamming a guy is fine.
Yeah.
Shoving coaches and staff is
That's
just
the
a little
line. That's
over the line.
Okay.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Kelso
Off the
says
brakes,
last year Rodgers was too careful with the ball. Now he's washed for throwing it up. Packer fans are a strange bunch. I'll say this.
Hey.
It goes
There's a lot of
beyond,
different ways of being wrong.
It goes beyond just last year. Like I have seen that year in and year out. If he throws a pick, oh man, Rodgers has lost it. If he doesn't throw a pick and he takes a sack, he's too conservative. So I agree with that. But man, I've made stupid comments in the heat of the moment for sure. That's happened on a consistent basis.
Well, and let me just say, because again, they're not mutually exclusive. You can mess up in a lot of different ways. If there's a guy open and you don't throw it and you take a sack, or if you can throw away and you don't and you take a 15-yard sack like he's done twice in the last 2 weeks, if you throw up the ball and it is picked up, I mean, these are all mistakes. So you can not throw the ball and make a mistake, and you can throw a ball and make a mistake. They're all just mistakes. And so if your mistakes compound and you make a lot of mistakes and you're not doing a lot of good things, then you're going to get critiqued for it. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that. And it certainly doesn't make people hypocrites to say, stop making mistakes. We do it with every, and this is, can I be honest? This is the thing that's annoying me with the Rodgers thing. I can critique every player on this team, but if I critique Rodgers, it becomes everybody's picking on him. Everybody, like, we can talk about Quay, we could talk about Savage, we could talk about Wyatt, we could talk about Yosh Nijman and the mistakes he made. We could talk about Dobbs's drops and Lazard's drops and Aaron Jones's fumble. But if we critique Rodgers for throwing a pick, it's somehow out of bounds. Like, the guy makes mistakes. He makes mistakes, and I'm going to say he makes mistakes, and I'm going to say that he pisses me off when he makes mistakes. And you know, I don't get why we can't do that, right? I say he does a good job when he does a good job. He had a bad year, a very down year, making a lot of mistakes. Sometimes it's for not throwing the ball, sometimes it's for throwing the ball, and it just gets annoying when he's the one guy that is the sacred calf that if you critique the guy, everybody's going to come after you, and it's just getting tiring. Like, the guy sucked today. I'm going to say he sucked. And if you don't like that, go cry about it. But it's a reality. Leave me alone. Good Lord. It's so tiring.
Jacob, you got any talk on this golden calf, bro?
No, I mean, that's pretty much it, is what I can say. You know, and like I said, the best thing that I've learned in the last couple of years is that two things can be true at once.
Right.
And you don't always have to stand on a freaking mountain and say, this is what's only right.
Exactly.
Because you can just literally be like, yeah, maybe Rodgers is one of the best quarterbacks of all time, and he's going to be one of the go down as the greatest of all time. Maybe this year was on par of one of his worst years, which compared to 95% of quarterbacks in NFL history would be their best year. That's probably both true at the same time. So maybe we should all, as Packer fans, just be like, okay, today was a really hard day. This season was a hard season to grasp, but guess what? We were about to make the playoffs. The Vikings look like absolute dog crap. The Lions are just about to now become what they could be possibly. And the Bears are still the Bears. I mean, at the end of the day, come on, guys.
Oh, my God. So Jake in the chat here says, a lot of emotion in this game, no doubt. Rodgers Cobb walking off together feels like a reset is on the way, and that's a great time for a plug for Jake's podcast here on the Packernet Podcast Network. It's always draft season, so that's
going to be coming up pretty huge here. Guys, going to have to stay tuned to that.
Tune into that one.
Definitely. Don in the chat says, sick of Rodgers holding us hostage and all the reading of the tea leaves. Now, yeah, I want to go back to what Ryan said. What's hilarious is Ryan and I had a great conversation on the phone earlier this year. On Twitter, if I post a highlight of Rodgers doing something good, I immediately get butchered. It's like, well, why don't you mention the bad? Why don't you mention the bad? And if Ryan mentions something bad, it's, why don't you mention the good?
Right.
So I think we bring a good balance this year for Packernet. You know, me leaning toward, hey, look, here's what I think Rodgers seen, and you leaning towards, hey, look, you know, Rodgers makes mistakes too. I think it was a good balance. But as far as the reading of the tea leaves, Don, I see it different. I definitely do. Ryan probably sees it a little bit closer to your angle. But for me, I don't see Rodgers just going out and saying, hey, guys, look at me. I want to talk about this. He's in press conferences. He's asked the question. I do think Rodgers answers questions for the most part 100% honest, and he doesn't give a lot of that coach or, quote, player speak. And when you go that route, then you're going to come across as dramatic. But Ryan, what do you think, man? Is he holding the team hostage with all the reading of the tea leaves, like Don was saying, or do you think it?
No, I agree. I think he's just extremely honest, and he just says what's on his mind. And you know, like there was a comment, I lost it in here, but he said something, and you know, and Jacob's right. Like, it's going to spiral out of control, but that's not his fault. That's us spiraling it out of control. I think he's just gotten to a point where he's just going to say exactly what's on his mind. And I mean, maybe it's just because I have a podcast and I say a lot of stupid stuff, so I know what it's like to just say things. And it was like, I don't know why I said that. I get that all the time when people message me like, you said on the podcast and here's why you're wrong. And I'm like, I said that because I don't even agree with that. I don't know what you're talking about, but I guess that makes sense. So yeah,
I get that a lot from Mandy, bro. Like, I don't remember saying stuff. But anyway, right.
Yeah. So I guess I'm more willing to accept that sometimes people say stuff and it's maybe not the most perfectly crafted thing that you can say. But no, I don't necessarily think he's holding the team hostage. If there's anything that's hostage-ish, it's the contract, and that's on the GM, not on Aaron Rodgers, right? He's the one that gave him the contract that makes it so that we can't cut him if we decided to.
Yeah.
So No,
Gotcha.
I don't dislike Rodgers at all. My only issue is he's just having a bad year, and I've just been
Right.
saying that, and I don't think that that's a super controversial take.
Right. Anthony in the chat, thanks for hanging out with us, Anthony. He says it's time to move on from Rodgers. There's a couple of teams who would trade for him, a lot of cap to figure out and contracts. Yeah, to me, the trade is not going to happen. It's not an option. I'm not going to say never, never say never, but never, like Tomlin said. I don't know, man. The way the contract is structured, they gave him that confidence and that security that they would not trade him. Now, if Aaron comes out and says, I want to rework the deal and be traded, there might be some way to finagle around that. But the vibe I get, and I could be reading it wrong, it's early, right? I mean, we're just a couple hours since the game ended. I kind of feel like Rodgers is saying, hey, look, if you want me back, I'll play. If you don't want me back, I'll retire. What I hope the team does, me personally, is I hope they go to him and go, listen, we want you back, but we don't want you to feel obligated to come back. If you feel like you're doing us a favor by coming back, then your happiness is more important to us than squeezing another year or two out of you. Maybe there's a way they can massage that situation and get through it. But I think that if Aaron walks up into Brian Gutekunst's office tomorrow and says, hey, man, I want to come back next year, he's coming back. It's that simple.
I agree.
I don't think it's that simple of a decision, but I think that the Packers would jump right on board with it. And again,
they trade Love.
Next year, though, that's a totally different ball game because next year is your back is really against the wall with Jordan Love, right? Which you've got to kind of make that call this offseason, right? There's a deadline for the fifth-year option if you want to pick that up. So
can Love, real quick,
yeah.
Can Love, if he say Rodgers says, yeah, I'm coming back, can Love then say, I'm out of here? You guys get rid of me.
Well, that's the rumor, is that he's going to try to force his way off the team if they stick with Rodgers. I don't know if there's any truth to it, but that was the rumor that was circulating.
Does he have that kind of power to actually have any sort of, chess move to make that happen? Or is that more just, I'm going to fluff my feathers kind of thing?
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, it's probably going to be mostly up to the team, but it's just kind of a question of, does the team want to strangle him? And I think they won't. I don't think they're going to say, tough, you're sticking here whether you like it or not. Right. I think teams, especially the Packers, are going to say, if you don't want to be here, we'll try, but we'll let you go. And I think he will be gone.
Yeah.
And then one other real quick thing in the comments, people are talking about Lovie Smith as a DC coordinator. Is that an option? Because if that's even a possibility, yeah, go on, that'd be cool. Lovie Smith as the D coordinator in Green Bay. Wow.
I haven't looked at what Lovie's done recently down in Houston as far as scheme. And first of all, Don in the chat said that was so sad talking about Quay. Completely agree there. When it comes to Lovie, I don't know what kind of scheme he's running, if he's still running that Tampa 2 zone heavy or not. But I don't know, man. I'm kind of with Ryan after this game and this last little stretch. Unless I don't want to put words in your mouth, Ryan, but I kind of feel like this defense stood up a little bit here at the end of the season. And tonight, they're not the reason they lost the ball game. The offense is the reason, hands down. The offense and the head coach is the reason. And I'm not saying you should fire LaFleur, but if I had to put the blame on someone, I'm saying LaFleur and the offense would be my call for sure. So, and Dawn says she agrees with you, Jacob. Shows how much Dawn knows, right? And I'm just joking, Dawn. Just kidding. Kelso at Anthony. So 9 I don't know what that means. At Anthony. Oh, in the chat, I guess. So 9 passes from Love sold you that it's time to move on from your first ballot Hall of Famer. Now I want to comment on this, Kelso, because I agree with you. I'm not going to say that Love isn't the next great quarterback, but to sit here and pretend like, and this is what I always ask people when they bring this topic up. I say, hey, so you're telling me you think Love is better than Rodgers right now? If you're 110% sure of that, I'm with you. I'm all about the Packers being a better football team, period. But anyone who tells me that they know Love is a better quarterback than Rodgers right now, I think it's just speaking out of theory. Now, if you're saying, okay, there's a higher upside from a gambling standpoint of let's move on to him now, I think next year is the time to answer that question if Rodgers decides to not come back. But True Bruce Steve in the chat says, thank you, Ryan, for being level-headed. Ryan, I'm sure would agree if he's a level-headed.
He said that before I went off the rails. And speaking of going off the rails, can I have one comment about the first ballot Hall of Fame? You know who else is a first ballot Hall of Famer? Troy Aikman. I don't want him playing for the Packers this year. So I don't know what that has to do with it. The point is, yes, he was very, very good in the past. The question is, what is he now? What does he have left? And for how many years? Even if, okay, he's still 100% the guy. What if we lose Love and this is Rodgers' last year? Is it still worth it? Even if we tell you that Rodgers is better than Love, if Love is a starting quarterback, a competent starting quarterback for the next 10 years, and we're going to throw that away for one mediocre year with Rodgers, is that what you want? I mean, I just think the question is bigger than just throwing around, oh, you're going to give up your MVP quarterback. Like, that's just too basic of a way of looking at it. It's a deeper conversation than that.
And I think you have to also understand that we're assuming that Rodgers is going to get better from his thumb that's broken, his rib that's messed up, his knee that's now hurt. Like, he's not like a spring chicken that he's, we're going to be re-signing a guy that has injuries that are prolonging into next year, So anyways.
All right, so we got True Bruce Steve in the chat said, how was there no DPI after Rodgers got the lines to jump off sides? The reason being is because it was a neutral zone infraction, which blows the play dead. So if it was a simple offsides, then I know the play continued to play, but the officials basically said, no, it was blown dead. If it had been a normal offsides, then there probably would have been a DPI called. I know the flag didn't come out, and that looks bad too. Probably would have been a little bit, I don't know, it would have looked a little bit better if the flag would have came out for DPI. Then they would have said, we're picking that up because it was actually a dead ball foul. There was a lot of chaos there. I mean, you got to think, dude, these are big games with a lot of money on the line. I know we jump on the officials a lot, but there's no way I could do that job. I'm just being honest. Kelso says, no nicks and big returns hurt. It's a different team when we get those returns going. Absolutely. We talked about this in the pregame, Ryan. Detroit's got a great kick coverage, man. And it just shows you having a great kick returner is awesome when you play against teams that have bad special teams. We've seen it firsthand, with Green Bay the last few years, right? If you play a decent returner, man, we were really playing behind the sticks all game long. But again, it's another reason you want to bolster the bottom half of that roster and make sure your special teams is solid for sure. So let's see here. Matt LaFleur. Let's see what this comment is here. Mike in the chat says, Matt LaFleur is an offensive head coach, ? And yet he is supposedly a top quarterback, yet the offense is this bad. Matt has to take some blame as well. Completely agree, Mike, with that comment. I think there's plenty of blame to go around. Kelso, losing his top 2 wide receivers, losing your offensive coordinator, and being hurt played a big role. Take Cousins, and he has 4 picks this game. I don't know how I feel about the whole Rodgers Cousins thing, to be honest with you, because, I mean,
I don't know why we're even talking about that.
Cousins definitely has two number 1 wide receivers for sure. So, yeah. And Don says, am I a terrible fan for thinking at least we won't be embarrassed again by the 49ers? I mean, the way the Packers have played, they weren't going to go all the way. That crossed my mind when we got into the third quarter, Ryan, and it kind of felt like, okay, this could go either way. Yeah. I immediately turned to, you know what? I don't think it matters. I mean, You want to get in. You want to give yourself a chance, but I don't know, man. I don't think they could compete with 49ers right now. Do you?
No, that was the part that was so hard about it at halftime is you get to the point where you think, I think we're going to win the game, but I also think it doesn't matter because this team is not going to do anything in the playoffs. So that was the disheartening part where you want to win the game, but you also feel like it's over. Like it felt like the season ended because you knew we weren't going to go anywhere, and that's what sucked about it.
Absolutely. Kevin in the chat, appreciate the super chat, man. He says, on a positive note, at least the Packers won't get blown out by the Niners. It's funny, everybody got to that point at the same time. The Lions just spared Aaron Rodgers from getting injured next week. Yeah, that's hilarious, man, that you guys thought the same thing at the same time. Let's see here. Just want to make sure, guys, we got to start wrapping this up. I want to respect Ryan's time. Appreciate you jumping on here with us, man, and Jacob, too. I just want to make sure we don't.
Time. Oh, okay. Got that.
Well, he's doing another podcast tonight, which I'm going to sleep, so I kind of feel buried.
We're doing it tomorrow now.
All right, got you. All right, let's go to this one right here. James.
Ryan's got to do another one? Yeah, he's got to.
Yeah, he's working on Packing After Dark. The 49ers would have destroyed us to save us the embarrassment. I just want to make sure the playoffs were regardless. Yeah, it's hilarious, dude. Everybody came to the emotions wore off. We came to the same conclusion at the same time. All right, so I think we're going to wrap it up, guys. I'm just trying to scroll through the chat. I don't want to skip over anybody, but I really, really appreciate everybody taking the time to hang out with us, man. It's a tough loss. That's what I love about Packer fans. Here it is, toughest loss of the year, and everybody's hanging out in here still talking ball. Andy in the chat says caller number 5 here. Oh, all right.
Hey, he got outed. Now we know who he is.
Yeah,
Now
know
his
he
name
is.
is Andy.
Oh,
Caller number
man.
5, Andy. I
Whistleblower.
apologize in advance for my two calls. I probably made no sense, but I was just so pissed off at Coach and AR12. LOL. Look at this, man. People coming together and just.
I can't wait to get to it, man. But I just did 2 calls. There were new calls and there were drunk guys who called from the game. So we're getting off to a weird start. But I'll get to yours eventually.
Love it. All right. This one right here, I've got to highlight this. LaFleur's playbook is getting old. Time to change this up. I'm just going to say that from what I've seen tape-wise, the first 3 years of Matt LaFleur being here was a mix of McCarthy and LaFleur. I think this year you got a heavy dose of LaFleur's playbook. I'm not saying that LaFleur, his system, wouldn't have been strong 2 or 3 years ago, but you've seen it all across the league. He bends toward the McVay style of this system. McVay's system struggled this year. You could say it was injuries, lack of a quarterback, all these different things. I get it. They struggled this year. Aaron Rodgers and Matt LaFleur struggled this year in Green Bay. And then, of course, the New England Patriots, you guys have heard me say it on the pod, they incorporated this same scheme, this same system, this McVay-style aspect of the Shanahan system. And their offense took a step back. I think they chose the wrong scheme the wrong year, kind of 1 year too late. Now, here's the thing. They can adjust. And I think they adjusted down the stretch here. They got away from the RPO aspect. They got into some motion when they were playing man coverage teams, which we seen the motion tonight. At one point, Ryan, you and I both were screaming, "Where's the reverse? Where's the option? Where's all this motion?" And then tonight we get it on a 4th and 1
to Lazard.
Yeah, exactly. So I don't know, man. But we got to wrap it up here at some point. So we're just going to end it with this. Atheist for the Cause says, I think Love recuperated some value this year because he has played well. I don't think he hurt his stock at all. So let's end it here. Let's talk with Love here. What is your take on Jordan Love right now, Ryan? What do you do with Jordan Love? Let's say Aaron does retire, right? Obviously, if he retires, you give Love 1 year to kind of prove it, right? You don't pick up the 5th year and give him 1 year to prove it unless you believe he's the guy. But let's say Aaron comes back. How do you handle the Love situation, man?
Well, you try as hard as you can to convince Love that he's still the future, and we're going to get there sooner than later, and hope that he doesn't force his way off the team, I guess, is the best that you can do. I'm not trading him. I know we haven't seen much, and it sounds like I'm being homerish and dumb, but in the little bit of sample size we saw of him, even in that last time he came out for like 2 throws, I was impressed. I know he made a bad decision. He should have thrown to his right instead of throwing to Dobbs, but the anticipation and the velocity and the accuracy and everything is so pinpoint that it gets me excited. I just want to see more, and I just don't want to throw that away. And I think that's why I'm kind of pushing in that direction, is I'm so scared of losing him on the off chance that he ends up being a really good quarterback for us. So if Rodgers comes back, try as hard as you possibly can to keep Love around. And if not, then I guess we start from ground zero and try to find the new quarterback.
Yeah, because on the flip side, Jacob, if Rodgers comes back and they trade Love and Love goes on to another team and becomes a Pro Bowl quarterback.
That's our next Micah Hyde.
I'm going to lose it.
Next.
It would be horrible. Absolutely horrible. So I'm with you on that for sure, Ryan. All right, Brett in the chat says, a lot of talk on Aaron and possibly Cobb retiring. But I watched this game, and with the thought of us watching Mason playing his last game as a Packer, what a career if he does decide to retire. I personally think, and I have no reason to say, hey, look, I've got a source. I don't play the sources game. I think Mason may have went to management and said, hey, look, this is it for me. Because I think they got, 2 kickers on the practice squad right now, if I remember correctly. I think they're looking for that replacement. So I could definitely see that, man. I think that's a pretty solid take there, Brett, and appreciate you hanging out with us. So we're going to go ahead and wrap up, guys. It's late, and again, I appreciate Jacob and Ryan jumping on here with me. As we wrap up, Ryan, any parting thoughts, man? We're getting ready to get into our off-season content, obviously. It sucks that the season ended this way. I appreciate and love the fight the Packers put up there at the end, But now we're on to the offseason. Anything you want to say as we wrap up, man?
Well, we just got to move on to off-season mode. I mean, it's the season never ends, and there's always reason to be optimistic. Not everything can be about the Super Bowl, and if it is, you're going to be miserable. I mean, it's still the Green Bay Packers, and the question is, how do we get better? Obviously, Aaron Rodgers is going to be the biggest question, but we got to kind of be able to move past that too, because if we dwell on it, it's going to be very boring because we're not going to get an answer for a very long time. So I'm excited, man. We get to look at different ways to kind of improve the team. Rather than dwelling on what sucks, we can kind of look at the things that got better, like the defense, and look at some pieces that we can add and try to figure out how because we did get hot at the end. I know even Rodgers, I was looking at the comments, said, and I actually thought it was a very good comment. He said, we were a couple players short of the team that we needed, and those players might already be on the team. And I think that's a pretty good take. But yeah, I mean, we got hot toward the end, just not quite where we needed to be. I think the Packers are close. It's just a matter of how do we get there next year.
Absolutely. Jacob, what you got, brother?
Yeah, well, as far as just me as a Packer fan, I'm grateful and thankful and blessed that we had another great year of just a lot of heartaches, a lot of emotions, a lot of gratifying things, and a lot of things that we need to work on. And as far as the Packernet Fantasy Podcast is concerned, I'm not really sure. We haven't honestly had a conversation about this as far as going forward, because as the Packer season ends, we don't know necessarily what that means, but we can still probably at least have one or two more episodes for sure before we necessarily know what we're going to do in the offseason. But I'd like to think we'd keep doing an off-season type deal at least once or twice a week and just keep you guys in the link, maybe do some other gambling, stuff like that. Anyways, it was a blessing to hang out with you guys for this whole season. I can't thank Ryan and Packers Total Access for having me for this whole last year. And man, it's been fun, and I can't wait to do it next year. And all I can say is go Pack, go, and we'll get them next year.
Absolutely, man. Well said. It's been a fun year, man. This has been an experience for me. I've flirted with doing podcasts in the past. I've had a couple of different people approach me about it, and I've always turned it down. And then when Ryan opened it up this year, I thought, Mandy literally, I thought she was going to divorce me if I didn't message Ryan and say, hey, look, give it a shot. So I'm glad we did it, man. It's been fun. I've learned a lot. I've learned a lot from Ryan. I've learned a lot from Jacob, learned a lot from everybody in the network, but really learned a lot from the listeners and people on Twitter. The reasonable ones. Of course, you got to block the idiots, the knuckleheads. But it's been a good year, man. Hate that it ended the way it did, but it is what it is. We're going to get into the off season, crank up, and until Ryan kicks us out of here, we're going to still continue to do Packers Total Access, and we'll have people from the network on the show. But thanks to everybody in the chat. Thanks to everybody on Twitter and YouTube for hanging out with us. Really appreciate it. Just want to say that our giveaway for the Paul Hornung autographed jersey will end at midnight tomorrow. Okay, Monday. Monday at 11:59 p.m. Okay. We're going to go ahead and pick a winner, and we'll announce that probably as early as Thursday. So make sure that you go to Twitter at Packers_access, retweet the tweet that's pinned at the top of the page. Make sure you're following the account. And if you want to donate to a great cause, we got Fertile Ground Ranch Discipleship Ministry right there with a link. Every $5 you donate, we'll enter you into the contest one additional time. Appreciate you guys' time. As always, let's go out and be the change we want to see in the world, and go Pack, go.
Inches to go. The Vader. 17 to 14. Cowboys out in front. Star begins the count.